good morning, and good morning, guys. Welcome to another fabulous episode of Exit Strategies Radio Show. I am your host. Yes, that is me, Corbin J. Millett, broker and owner of Exit Realty Low Country Group in beautiful North Charleston, South Carolina. Hey, y'all like how I just rolled that thing out this morning, and I ain't hiccup on it this time. So look here, guys, we are set up to have a fabulous show. I want to give a huge shout out to our listeners that listen to us locally on WJNI 106.3. You guys rock. I bump into so many of you guys in the streets at events and functions as we're out here working to serve the community. And you all share that you tune in, and I really, really appreciate it. It makes us feel that the work is taking root. So thank you for that. Thank you for the encouragement. Thank you for the prayers as we continue on this mission here at this show. Now, for those of you who've been listening to us for a while, you know what it is, but we're going to say it anyhow. That is, our mission is simple, very simple. That is to empower our community through financial literacy and real estate education, guys. We're legacy building. That is what we do. Now, today is no different, guys. We've been out here casting the net wide to bring in the best guests, to bring in people with stories to share, information to give, and ideas to spark and motivate and inspire you to take that step into financial freedom. And today, guys, is no different. I am so excited to introduce to you Sach Johnny. I got it. Yeah,
You
I
did
got
get
it
it.
with us today. So, Sach, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Corin. I really appreciate you having me on the show today.
Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here. So, I'm going to start with Sach. Tell listeners about you, who you are, where you came from, and how you got where you are. What do you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll try to truncate that into a few minutes. But I came here when I was a kid. I was actually born in India. My parents were, immigrants here, and I watched them really, hustle to give us a better life and work really hard. And we didn't really have a lot, when we showed up. My parents got here with a few $100s, to be honest with you. And just through hard work and perseverance, they built a life, and I was able to go to college and kind of follow my dreams. And so I've always had that with me, where I saw an opportunity where you can be in one position in life in America, and through perseverance, hard work, taking action, you can change that and be in another position. And so I've always held on to that. And so after college, I got a job in Wall Street. So I was actually a trader and a salesperson, on Wall Street, worked at big banks. And, I got to see then at that point, how the other half lived and what they knew and the conversations they were having and what their attention was focused on versus sort of what I saw when I was younger. And so to kind of be on both sides, that gave me a really unique perspective and position to, when I was done with my career, to do something that could really empower people and share some of the knowledge and the tools and the ideas that I had learned with the greater community, if you will. So really love what you do in the show, because it's very much in line with sort of, my purpose and my mission. And I've translated that into a new company that I co-founded with a couple of my co-founders called Elevate Money, and it's focused on real estate. And what we do is we take, commercial properties. Initially, it's our first strategy, and we buy a bunch of properties and then we pool them together, and we allow the average person to invest in the entire portfolio online within a few minutes with $100 minimum. And
Mhm.
now we're growing, and we're actually have this amazing partnership that we signed with this company called Boxable that builds these modular homes. And now we're having a residential portfolio that we're launching soon. And the great thing about that is that it's focused on the housing crisis, which is housing affordability. So with Boxable, we plan to develop these communities using their little modular casitas that are more appealing and modern. And so people can now have a home in the areas they want to live in at a
Mhm.
starter price again, because obviously real estate has gotten so expensive in this country. And so there's a lot of good behind that. It's a sustainable product. Plus, I think it's going to provide an awesome return for investors. So in essence, we want to really impact the world through real estate, if I can make that short.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So I'm gonna say something such that I heard in all of that. So maybe recently, so a few days, weeks, I don't know when it was. I put this post in, I think, a Facebook group I carry for the agents in our office, and I shared with them about changing their room. Sometimes, like you were saying and sharing, the room that you were in because of your position as a trader on Wall Street, you got exposed to a lot of different things in that room. that then you could apply elsewhere. And most people want to change the room that they're in, but sometimes you need to change your room so that you can do that, meaning that you want to make an impact in your community. You want to do this, you want to see people have all this success and you want to help them do it, but you got to change your room first so that you can learn what you need to know so that you can come change the room. That right there just kind of hit me right there. So thank you so much for sharing that. So you say you guys are focused on essentially, and please correct me, the term is the wrong one to apply in this situation, Sarge, but you guys are basically are doing what, crowdfunding, correct?
Yeah, that's 100% true. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you said that someone can invest as little as $100.
Yeah.
What does that look like? And then let me do two things. One,
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you what does that look like on the back end. I'm going to ask you, for the people that you've been working with, what type of results are they seeing?
Sure. That's a great question. And obviously, let me take a step back. So one of the most tried and true ways to build wealth over a long period of time, not hitting a home run and getting crypto right or wrong, but through a long period of time, has always been real estate. And, private real estate, commercial properties, diversifying into a lot of portfolios. However, that was really only possible initially if you had the amount of money to go and buy a bunch of buildings. And obviously, as real estate grew and got more expensive, the government allowed the structure called the REIT, which is basically was already a crowdfunding fund that could take in smaller investors so that everyone can participate and they can go and buy these expensive properties and then kind of share in the risk and the return of those properties. However, those portfolios were still only available to what we call accredited investors. So someone who makes, over $250,000 or has $1 million in net worth, and you needed to know someone. You need to have enough money to have a financial planner who said, hey, I have this fund that's buying these properties you should put in because they're going to have good returns. And the power of real estate is that, unlike, let's say, just, stocks pay dividends too, but generally stocks and bonds that go up and down, real estate, one, over a long period of time, just goes up through the power of just inflation, right? The cost of everything gets more expensive. And number two, because if you get real estate that pays an income, a dividend, they can't take that back. So the price could go down, but they can't take the money they gave you back. So you're building this cushion on your investment over a period of time. And so, a lot of people find that a safer way to grow wealth over a long period. And then you can take that monthly dividend, if you will, and reinvest it back into the real estate and then earn interest on the interest. And that's called compound interest. And if you do that stuff for a longer period of time, the compounding power of that is phenomenal. So we have a section in our website called the dividend calculator, and you can plug that in. You can say, okay, well, obviously if you put $100 in and that's all you do. So to answer your question of, returns, we've been paying a 6.5% monthly annualized dividend, on a monthly basis since inception. We've been very consistent because we have long-term leases. Our tenants pay us rent, and we take those rents, we do all the maintenance, and we take out the fees, and then we pay our investors every month. So pretty simple process. But if you put $100 and you're in 6.5% a year, well, even if you reinvest the dividends, and if you did that, maybe you got to close to 7%, that's $7. That's not going to change your life. Mm-hmm. However, a third of our investors, first of all, some people put 100, but obviously people put in more. They might test it to see, hey, is this going to work? Am I going to get my dividend? And then when they feel confident, they'll add more. But let's say you started with, $500, mm-hmm. and then that's still not a lot of money. But you could say, well, why not every month? So we have this auto invest feature. I build that portfolio and I'll put another 100 or 250 every month. Mm-hmm. And if you run that on a dividend calculator over, 3 years, you'll see that you actually built a pretty good cushion, a pretty good return for yourself. But if you did that over 10 years or 20 years or 30 years, just quietly put away small amounts of money and let that income come in and then reinvest that income and compound and grow, that's how you build wealth. All of a sudden, your kids have a huge nest egg, or you have a huge retirement, fund there, or down the road, 10 years, you want to buy a bigger house, like whatever the amount is. So you could do that with $1 million, mm-hmm. and it will be multiples of that. And that's how the wealthy got a lot wealthier. Mm-hmm. But now the average person can also do that with whatever level of wealth they have versus just spending it. You could spend $500 a month or $200 a month on dinner and sneakers and whatever it is, and that's gone. But if you quietly put it away and then you look 10 years or 20 years, or even 5 years from now, you'll be surprised at what you've actually built. And that's the education part that we want to try to teach people and introduce this concept, because I feel like it's not an unknown concept. It's just not been discussed with the general public. But I can tell you that compound interest and investing in dividend earning passive income is a conversation that people with money talk about all the time.
So for our listeners, guys, Sarge, you're in Miami, you said, right? That's the area that you live in. So you guys have buses, city buses, all that stuff in that area. Do you all have kneeling buses in that area?
Kneeling buses? I don't
Yeah.
believe so.
You don't know. So that's a bus, and some cities have it. So if you listen to this, wherever you guys are, if you have a metro system, a lot of buses, a lot of systems have what they refer to as a kneeling bus. So when it gets to wherever the people are, it lowers in the front, so it makes it easier for people to get on. I'm saying this because, Sach, you got a kneeling bus here. You are pulling up to people, and you are lowering the place where people can enter, so they ain't got to climb up to get into investing. You're laying the bus down. You're getting the step closer to the ground so that people can step on. So for our listeners, guys, you need to pay attention to this. You need to pay attention to this is an opportunity, or these things like this are opportunities to get you in. We always looking, again, it's a barrier of entry that a lot of people build themselves to say, well, I got to have 100,000, I got to have 50,000, I got to have $1 million or $500,000, $250,000 in order for me to invest in real estate. And that's not true. That is not true. So thank you, Sach, for what you guys are doing. So let me hit you with a question here. So this type of crowdfunding and stuff is very popular among younger investors. Am I correct?
100%.
Okay. And what do you believe? So two questions. One, why do you believe that is so? And number two, let's talk about what do you project that's going to look like for those investors in the future?
Yeah, awesome questions. One, I mean, the reason is, in essence, technology and the internet and apps and the iPhone. They're digital natives, right? So the younger generation knows nothing else but ordering their food on their phone, right? Getting a car and a cab, or an Uber on their phone, getting a hotel on their phone, buying tickets on their phone, doing everything on their phone. And so the idea of banking now on their phone is super normal. The idea of walking into Bank of America and standing in line to get a teller to get your check is like just doesn't even make sense. Like, wait, I have to spend 20 minutes and drive somewhere versus like 3 seconds on a phone. So the same thing is happening with investing, is that because they have access to it on their phone, one, they don't want to talk to humans. Two, they are able to access information and learn quicker and faster than when we grew up. We didn't have that, right? Like, I had to get into Wall Street to even knew this world existed. Well, today every kid knows about what the Fed is doing and where stock prices are and where crypto is, because it's so easy to access. And with that, they've developed the ability to process different parts of their brain and build a lot of skill sets. And I think the olden days used to be, well, you do this, and if let's just say you're a doctor and that's all you know. So when it comes to money, you're not the expert. Go hire someone who's an expert at money and let them manage your money. And young people today are like, what? No, I can be an expert. It's my money. And they can, because there's nothing that stops them from learning, if they want to, what somebody else knows, because it's all there. And I think that's the reason why they're so adept at investing online. And because of that, they want to do it earlier. Because they don't have as much money, they need to do it in smaller increments. So they're like, I don't want to wait till I'm wealthy. I don't want to wait till I'm older. I want access. There's no reason. They see no reason why they can't have access to what a billionaire has. So if Elon Musk is buying Bitcoin at 30,000, they don't see why they can't buy their fractional share, right? And Robinhood made stock trading that simple. You buy a Tesla's $250, well, they can buy $10 worth of Tesla and trade it in the same format. So I think that the world has changed, and they're just so used to that. It's very normal. And real estate is something that most people generally understand, because it's probably the first asset that mankind really created. So that's number one. And the growth of that this is the powerful thing, is that millennials, like millennials means like people who are 42, right, are going to control over 50% of the wealth in the United States in the next 7 years by 2030. So they're going to be the dominant, like, monetary, like, powerhouse decision makers. And if that audience is doing everything digitally, and not having financial planners and seeking outside resources, then we have to create products for them so they can access all the options, not just a few. And so real estate is just an important option for them. And so that's why they're the main source. But of course, like, this doesn't mean you have to be a millennial to invest in a crowdfunding platform, but they're more geared to it. And again,
it's just a disposition, as you said, because they do that. I have a 21-year-old at the house, and I had this conversation. Last few days has kind of been moping around, and I'm like, yeah, I said, life is different than what you thought it was. Like you said, that generations now just believe or think they can just have whatever. So this is a method of kind of chopping it down so you can. But you see that, I mean, it's like there's an expectation that I can have everything, and you can work yourself there. And this is the avenue or platform that gives people an avenue that want to work themselves to being more wealthy, having more wealth, creating possibly generational wealth. I mean, you never know what they plan to do with it, but definitely something in that. So tell me, Sarge, like the experiences that your folks are having, like the feedback and the takeaways. So what are they learning in this entire process?
Do you want something more? More meaningful moments, opportunities, deeper relationships, and memorable experiences? Do you want to make a difference? If you said yes, a career in real estate could be the opportunity you're looking for. Guiding people through one of the most important decisions they'll ever make, the purchase or sale of their home, can be both rewarding and lucrative. Exit Realty's revolutionary compensation model, training, and technology provides you with the tools you need to start and build your successful real estate career. Call me today, Robin Collins, ROBYN Collins with Red Robin Homes at 843-557-5003. Again, that's 843-557-5003. Or visit me at redrobinhomes.com/join-exit and make your exit today.
Yeah. So that's an important component, right? Is the education part. Obviously, they don't have to do anything. So we do all of it for them, right? So in essence, they take 4 minutes, they go through the flow, they decide how much money they want to invest, and the money gets put to work. And next month, they collect their first dividend. And then as we pay dividends, they get their interest, and they don't have to do anything. However, again, because of the world we live in, transparency is important. They do actually want to know. They want to learn what's happening. They don't just want to give you the money and then not talk to you. And so online, on our website and our app, we actually break down when we buy a property, we really give them a full report and kind of break down all the things that went into sort of making that decision to buy the property. So they know where the properties exist, they know who the tenant is, they know what the rent is, they know our sort of assessment, like we have a strategy and a model that we sort of put properties through. And they know, okay, well, this is why Elevate liked the location. This is what they thought about the tenant. This is what the lease term looks like. This is what the demographics, or these are just some of the other intangibles that they saw. And they kind of put all this together and said, hey, this is going to fit the overall portfolio. Well, what does that mean? Okay, well, here's what that means. We want to build a portfolio that has staggered maturity dates on the loan, staggered lease renewal dates, so that we don't have all this risk at one place. So as we're doing things, we're sharing all this information. Some of the audience is very curious and they read it, they want to learn, they send us questions. And some people are like, hey, I don't really care. Like, you're paying me, this has been consistent. You paid a monthly dividend every month. Everything else has gone up and down, and I still get my passive income from you guys. It's better than 1% at the bank. I know the properties you own, and like, I understand that the Shell gas station is still going to pump gas even in a recession. I understand people are still going to go to a Family Dollar, and those are good businesses. And then we also, in this strategy, in the commercial strategy, we also kind of share, like, look, our job is to try to, again, risk isn't everything. So there's no guarantees, right? Like, we can make that clear, but you can try to assess risk and either be prudent or sort of be wild about it. And so for us, we want to give them a predictable monthly cash flow, right? We want to say, hey, this is a long-term savings account for you. In essence, we're not going to triple in a week. That's crypto. We're also probably likely not going to go to zero in a week. Our job is to take your money, invest it in assets, collect rent, and give you passive income every month in a predictable fashion. And so Our tenants are quality tenants. We look at financials over 10, 20, 30 years. They've been operators in that business for a long time. They might be public companies that have strong credit. The leases are generally very long term, 5 to 20 years. A lot of them have rent increases built in. And so, these businesses, like a gas station, has to pay the rent for the real estate to be able to run the business. If they stop paying rent, then we kick them out and they can't pump gas and they're out of business. Those businesses are worth multi-millions of dollars. They're not going to not pay their 10 grand a month rent. It's a strategy that we feel is very low on the risk spectrum. And then we share all of that education information on the site. Sometimes our investment manager will do a call. We have a recording of one of the property assessments on the site. So
that's huge. So again, here we are again, guys, our listeners, with the kneeling bus. We have have opportunity. Sarge has made it easy. Matter of fact, you're bringing the bus to them and you're laying it down to give them access easily to get on. So that is huge. So please don't miss this opportunity, for our listeners. Now, Sarge, before we go and get too far, how can people reach you? How can they get in contact?
The easiest way is the website, elevate.money. It's not .com, it's elevate.money. We have a chat feature. We have a email feature. The whole team will get it. Somebody will respond to you if you have any questions. We're on social, on Instagram, LinkedIn, all that stuff. Like I said, our job is to constantly provide information, bring a lot of the tactics and strategies and access to products that wealthy people have to everybody. And then, like you said, it's up to the individual person to decide if they're going to take action or not. And again, that kneeling bus is that, at $100 minimum, it's not going to hurt anyone to try it. Like, you could spend $100 on air today. You walk out the house, you can lose $100, go out to dinner, buy a shirt, whatever it is. So we made it so easy for people to say, hey, like, I may not understand this right now, but hey, let me put $100 and see what happens. Okay, well, I got a few cents next month, and I got a few cents next month, and a few good cents next month. Well, man, imagine what if I put $100 every month? Well, I don't know what that would look like. Okay, let me go to this dividend calculator and plug those numbers in and see what that looks like. And so it's like these little baby steps along the way till you see it, feel it, you don't really know it. And so that's the goal, is not just to talk about it, to give people the option to actually see it and feel it and play with it themselves for that light bulb to actually click.
That is priceless. So, for our listeners, guys, while Sarge has been giving you that information, I've been checking out their website. And Sarge, you guys, I pass one of your properties usually about once or so a month because I'm in that area.
Oh, in South Carolina.
Yeah, that's funny because now, and funny enough, I think I stopped in there maybe a few months ago, I think, to buy a drink or something. That is, boom, mind blown, man. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Because that place has been there forever. I've been making that trip for a meeting in that area. I've been doing it for years.
Yeah.
And that's awesome, man. So now I got property and owner, so to speak, to put together. That's lovely.
That's cool.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
So, Sarge, thank you so much for being on today's show. Unfortunately, we're at the end of this today, but you and I have a lot more to talk about. For our listeners, guys, I want you to visualize that concept, and trustfully, maybe you guys, as you're driving to and fro out and about, all of our listeners, whether you're local to the South Carolina market or you're in other parts of the country or other parts of the world, if there's a public system, every time you see a bus and that sucker stop and lower down, I want you to think of Sachin Jhangiani, and I want you to reach out to him. I want you to say, hey, Sarge, I am ready to get on the bus. I want that to be your mantra, that you heard this on this show. I'm ready to get on the bus. Thank you for lowering it for me. What do I need to do to start investing? How can I start being a part of this global community of investors, and how I can begin to create wealth, create legacy, build income, residual income through dividends by working with you and your company. Sarge, I really appreciate you sharing that story with us today.
Corin, thank you, man. The pleasure is mine. I'm so happy I got a chance to be here with you today.
Awesome. So for our listeners, guys, look, we're at the end. Sarge, again, thank you so much for being a part of the Exit Strategies Radio Show family. From the bottom of my heart, I appreciate it, and I appreciate what you do in the community and what you do to empower people, which is a part of our mantra here as well. For our listeners, for the final time, y'all know how I feel. Y'all know what I say. I'm going to put the two of them together, and I'm going to say it to you this way, which is, I love you. I love you. I love you, and I'm gonna see you guys out there in them streets.